Today, we're looking at a brown ink from Monteverde Moonstone. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that if you are in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Pilot Metropolitan with a 1.0 stub, wrote with it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. In order to standardize some of my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper for all of the inks. I do use other papers, and some of those will show up later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this one. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, very dark, no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine, a lot lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and some very nice shading that's going on. One of the reasons I like brown inks. Over goes nice light to dark. Brown is dark to light. Quick starts dark, gets lighter, gets very dark, and stays dark. Nice shading, 12 seconds to dry. The medium is about the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and still some very nice shading. Look at what's going on with the word over. It starts light, gets dark, gets light, gets dark, stays very dark. It's beautiful. The starts lighter and gets darker. Even in the 8, it went from as I draw my 8s, I start at the bottom. I know I do it wrong. But as I move up, it gets lighter at the top and darker at the bottom. It started dark, it ended dark, but was medium in the middle. Nice. 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some color variation, far left to far right. The medium's harder to see on camera, but it's there, and it was there in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading. Look at how brown is a little lighter than the word lazy. The is a little darker than the word brown. So we do see some shading. It's not incredible. Over starts dark, gets to a mid-tone, then to dark again. It's a very subtle changing in tones that's very nice. 16 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub. Medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, and it does offer some very nice shading. The starts lighter and gets darker. Brown starts lighter, gets dark quickly, but the top of the B is lighter than the rest of the B. Fox, the top of the F is lighter than the bottom of the F. It gets to a mid-tone on the O and very dark on the X. We get very nice shading on Tomoe River with this. 22 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for the extra fine, far left to far right, and the same with the medium, far left to far right, does show some color variation, and we do get it in the writing. Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. And the shading is hard to see here. It's coming through darker on this paper, so we're really not seeing a lot of the shading here. 13 seconds to dry. Now medium is a little bit lighter than the stub, or than the extra fine, a lot lighter than the stub. No feather spread, halo sheen. The shade shows better. Brown starts dark, turns to a nice lighter tone on the W. Fox starts lighter, gets darker. Lazy starts darker, gets lighter in the bottom of the Z and at the end of the Y. 19 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine does not show a lot of color variation, but we really weren't seeing it. The medium does show it, and we did see it. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And it flees from the water. It goes way up. And what we see as the first ink is a very orange leaning brown. It's a brown ink, but it's got an orange lean to it. And at the very top, we see this very dark blue, unlocking the secret of where that shading's coming from. It is that blue that's added in there. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And if I did not have a D on that chromatography paper, I might not be able to tell the difference between these two, which makes me say I'm not expecting too much resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, there's a lot of blowout. I wouldn't use it out of fear of losing important notes, but I'm impressed how well that held together based on the chromatographies. Water is reactivating and completely lifting it off the paper, meaning you need nothing but water to clean this ink from your pen. Pen Flush does everything that water does and nothing more. No need for it. And a 1/3 bleach solution, which we absolutely don't need to use, completely obliterates it. I test ink viscosity or flow by using a tilt test, and I've linked that video and put that in here for you. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Monteverde's Moonstone has a viscosity of 2.25, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Moonstone has an average dry time of 17 seconds, making it not just normal, but average. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Moonstone, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now this is a light enough brown that we can go with a much darker black and really have something nice. So I chose Krishna's Empty. The second writing sample are done on Viscosity, Franklin Christoph, and black and red paper. Here we're looking at Viscosity notebooks. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Now the extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading. Brown starts dark and gets light, Fox starts dark, gets light, gets dark again. Lazy starts darker and works its way lighter. Over starts lighter and works its way darker. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is about the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and still gorgeous shading. Fox, it drew my eye immediately because it's a nice mid-tone at the top, very dark at the bottom of the F, goes to mid-tone on the O, very dark on the X. Lazy starts lighter, gets darker. Beautiful stuff. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows plenty of color variation left to right, and we got plenty in the writing. Franklin Christoph. No bleeding, no ghosting. Now this is a little bit more absorbent paper. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is slightly lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 4 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, just a hair lighter than the stub. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no color variation, which we didn't get. And last up is black and red notebooks. No bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a lot lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, plenty of very nice shading. Brown starts darker and gets lighter. Dog has lights and darks all throughout it, constantly in the writing. It's light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. It's beautiful, just very nice. Over starts very dark, goes to mid-tone, gets very dark again. 5 seconds to dry. Makes it a very good ink and notebook for a student. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not quite as dark as the stub. Medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, gorgeous, gorgeous shading. Jumps starts lighter, gets darker. Dog starts lighter, gets darker. The starts lighter, gets darker. Brown starts lighter, gets darker. Very common theme going on here. 6 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows plenty of color variation from left to right, and we got plenty of color variation in the writing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Monteverde Moonstone? This is a perfectly respectable, lighter brown ink. It gives some very nice shading, and is another one that really brings that old world feel to the writing that you put down. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Now, a medium flow, medium or fine pen really put down a very nice color with some shading. But you have to be careful with your very wet pens, because those wet pens, while they put down a very nice tone, are going to drown out the shading. If you've enjoyed this video, remember, I like thumbs up, you like thumbs up, everybody likes thumbs up. Unless you didn't like it, then give me the thumbs down. Both are good. Thanks for watching.